Secrets of the ancient stones. Have you ever stood before a mystery so massive, it seems to defy time itself? Welcome to Stonehenge. For centuries, these colossal stones have stood silent on the Salisbury Plain. But the secrets they hold are anything but quiet. Let's start with the incredible people who built it. Forget a single effort. Stonehenge was built in stages. Starting nearly 5,000 years ago, that's long before the Egyptians built the pyramids. And get this, the smaller blue stones, weighing up to 4 tons each, were dragged from over 140 miles away in Wales. Imagine the effort, the planning, the sheer will of these Neolithic and Bronze Age people to move mountains to this very spot. But why? What was the meaning? While we don't have a definitive answer, the most compelling theory is that Stonehenge was a sophisticated celestial calendar. It precisely marks the annual cycle of the sun, perfectly aligning with the sunrise on the summer solstice and the sunset on the winter solstice. It may have been a sacred place for rituals, a burial site, or even an ancient meeting spot, all tied to the rhythm of the cosmos, a monument of brilliant engineering, astronomical genius, and enduring mystery. The stones are waiting. Hit the like button if this wonder blew your mind, and subscribe to join us on more incredible journeys through history.
Welcome to Stonehenge. This is a World Heritage Site, and a lot of tourists from around the world come here for this educational tour. Our group from Japan, there are 16 of us, are also here to learn more about this World Heritage Site, and it's really very interesting. We have tour guides, and they're saying that one theory is this place used to be a burial site, and the other one has like a time dial.
When people talk about what Stonehenge was about, it started life as a cremation cemetery, but it certainly developed into a timing device, a calendar. These are farming people. When you plant your crops, when you harvest, when you travel from Scotland with a 6-ton stone or 11 pigs, you don't be late to the party. That's why we have hundreds of stone circles, and many of them have these proven alignments built in. As part of this upright, you'll actually notice at the bottom is concrete. Yeah, that's not an inner stone or a metal. It's 1950s conservation work. They had a whole lot of people kept climbing in it. They just concrete. We then had a circle of 24 tombstones. That's what those two little ones in the middle survived from. And then in the very middle, like I said, you won't see it as you go around, but we have the altar stone that came from Scotland. Red sandstone, 6 meters in length. You'll see why as you go around that side, big stones have now fallen on top of it. We don't know if it's stood up or laid down.
This is presumed to be the holes for the builders of the Stonehenge. You can see here thatched houses. Okay, so we'll go inside one of the stone houses. And there's some lecturers here. We'll just listen to them.
I know people say, oh, well, did they bring their animals in with them? No evidence of that at all. I know in the Middle Ages.
That's interesting, yeah, because later on they did.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, there was nothing to say that they had animals in their houses.
There is a fable that was around during the 12th century, and this fable essentially documented a story. The story goes something like this: that there were some Irish giants, who lived on top of a mountain in Ireland. This was before real society was formed. It's an Arthurian legend, okay? And so these Irish giants lived on top of this Irish mountain. They decided to build an enormous structure in England. And so with the help of Merlin, the wizard, who you might have heard of, an Arthurian legend, with his help, they decided to cut the stones into the shape that they wanted them, transport them over the Irish Sea, into Wales, through Wales, right here into Salisbury, and pop them down in the Salisbury Plain. Okay, that is how the fable goes. Now, as much as I'd love that to be true, we don't think that that is how Stonehenge was built, okay? But we do know that they definitely could have done with the help of building Stonehenge, with the help of Merlin and some incredibly strong giants. And that is because these stones are exceptionally heavy, okay? If you take the smaller blue stones, okay, those are the ones that are poking up out of the ground in the horseshoes. Those smaller blue stones, they weigh around 3,600 kilograms each, okay? So to give you context of that, that's about the weight of 2 cars, all right? Really, really heavy stones. And they were all erected into the ground in that shape that they wanted them, okay? So they were incredibly heavy. But the really interesting things comes when we talk about the Sarsen stones. These are the enormous famous stones. Those stones are exponentially heavier, okay? They weigh around 22 tons each. And remember, there are 30 of them. Now, to give you context of how much that is, that's about the weight of 4 African elephants each. That is heavier than the coach that we are currently on, okay? And that's just for one stone. And remember, there's 30 of them. Some of them are larger, some of them are smaller, but all of them are incredibly heavy. Now, the reason I give you this context as to how heavy these stones are is because of those people that we were talking about before, the late Neolithic era people and the early Bronze Age people, all right? They were not technologically advanced enough in our mind to sort of format the way that they wanted these stones to be placed. Let alone we think about how they needed to be carved to the shape that they wanted them as well, okay? So that's the reason I give you the context of how heavy these stones are, because these people did not have the technology at that time, which is again why there is so much mystery surrounding Stonehenge. It's really, really such an exciting place to go and visit. So when we're talking about how the stones were constructed and what position they were put in, we have to start making guesses again. There's that word again, estimate, guess, that kind of thing. Now, for the Sarsen stones, to put them in their position, those Sarsen stones were taken from around a 32-kilometre radius of the site of Stonehenge, right? So certainly not a small distance, but not an incredibly large distance as well. These Sarsen stones were taken, but remember, they had to be cut into the shape that they wanted them. They did not just come as they were, all right? They had to be cut into the shape that they wanted them. So the Sarsen stones would have been taken up out of the ground, out of the sides of hills, that kind of thing. They would have been carved and chipped, chiseled into the shape that they wanted them. As soon as they were done shaping the stones, what we think might have happened is they used a combination of some sort of like rope, also a wooden pole, so like tree trunks. If you imagine they had trunks that they would shift the stones onto somehow, they would then roll the stone, and then of course you would find that the last trunk, the last sort of rolling pole that they had, they would then have to shift to the front, and then they would roll it again, then they'd have to do the same thing, and it would be a repetition process of moving these Sarsen stones incredibly slowly, okay? This is why it took around 800 years to place the stones into the position that they wanted them, a huge, huge, huge amount of time, all right? Because it was really difficult to shift them. All right. Once they got them to the site of Stonehenge, where they wanted them, we estimate that they dug these ditches, dug these large ditches. The early Bronze Age people. They then somehow levered the Sarsen stones into the position that they wanted them, presumably with a huge amount of manpower, perhaps with a sort of lever system and combination of ropes and things like that, pulleys. They then levered them into the position that they wanted, the standing position. Popped some rubble inside the ditches that were built with them so they didn't fall over.